Okay, right. It's now 7:05, so we're going to make a start. Thank you all for attending the annual parish meeting, and I think Councillor Greaves is just about to attend. Okay, so we'll make a start to accept apologies for absence. So Liz, I think we have apologies from Councillor Roberts, which obviously picked up later in the full council meeting, but would still apply for this meeting. Are there any other apologies?
No.
No. Okay. So item 2 is to confirm the minutes of the previous parish meetings. So to be noted, there was no annual parish meeting last year due to coronavirus restrictions and the inability to meet in person during that time. So we're looking back at the annual parish meeting minutes from March 2019 and eagle-eyed Councillor Dixon Senior has spotted that the officer has been given the title Mrs. Marler rather than Mr. Marler. So if we could amend that, please. But otherwise, can I propose that we accept those minutes, please? Councillor Dalton, do you have a query?
Just on the previous item, could you just confirm if there's any councillors that didn't send their apologies that are not in attendance, please?
I think the only person now is Joe Sweeney.
Okay. Just to clarify, the submission of apologies is a courtesy rather than necessarily a official requirement. That's what the clerk confirmed to me earlier, if I interpreted what you sent me earlier correctly, Liz. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So so moving back to the minutes of the annual parish meeting held 2 years ago in March 2019, can I propose that we move them with the slight change to the title of Mr. Marler? All those in favour, please? Okay, yeah, obviously. Yep. All right, that's carried. Thank you. Okay. So the next item is the annual report of the Parish Council. And obviously this is for the benefit of our electorate. And obviously in this particular, it's our first Zoom parish meeting in this way. And regrettably, no members of the public are here, which is a shame. But obviously, given that we're on YouTube afterwards, there's a good opportunity for people to watch it if they wish to. So to make the report slightly more interesting, hopefully, and just to help us all recap on what's happened over the last year, I've put together a short presentation, which I will share in a moment. Let me just share my screen and I'll just talk you through it. Obviously, as it's all councillors who are here, you'll be fairly familiar with what is presented. Hang on. Okay, so I'll just talk you through it. As I say, many of you will be familiar with this, but this is for the benefit of all our parishioners, and I think it's an important time to just reflect on what we've achieved as a year and how it's been a different year from many. So hopefully you can all see what's presented to you. Do say if there's any problems. So in the first instance, obviously 2020 to 21 has been a very challenging one for the whole community, and obviously the Parish Council is not alone in experiencing a very different way of working. And it's worth bearing in mind that obviously as a result of coronavirus, we've had new ways of working to get to grips with in terms of these Zoom meetings, for example. I mean, none of us have now met in person since March time last year, which is when meetings were originally suspended. And at that point, our last meeting, essential operations were able to keep going in the interim before meetings were permitted again virtually, because obviously the regulations had to be put in place to allow that to happen. And the appointment of our new chair, so myself and vice chair and all the committee chairs was, as we well know, deferred to September, which is obviously ordinarily held in May. And our clerk team have been working from home, which again is a different challenge for everybody. And I think to be honest, we've probably all missed meeting people and seeing each other, but it's also added opportunities for members of the local area to come and, for example, I think it's actually some of the experiences we've had, I think, will help in the future in terms of improving our communication with our residents. So in terms of supporting our community during the coronavirus pandemic, obviously in that meeting back in March, Obviously, we've currently got, we've actually currently got 21 councillors, because we would ordinarily have 23, but 2 councillors, Councillor Feeney and Councillor Barker, have recently resigned. So those positions will be filled by the election in May. So just a reminder, Home Valley Parish Council is actually a pretty big area compared to many parish councils, and it serves nearly 30,000 people, and we receive nearly £280,000 from them through the precept, which comes with the council tax every year. And we supplement that income slightly by tenancies we receive from allotments and garages, but it's a small amount, and donations to the public toilets, for example. And within the parish council, we've got 7 different committees, and they've each got their own budget, they've each got their own focus, and they've each got their decision-making powers that they have delegated to them. And each of these committees to basically deliver positive change in our community. And over the next couple of slides, I'm just going to outline what the key things are that each committee has driven forward during this year. They're in no particular order, so that there isn't favouritism of a particular committee, but I just wanted to make sure I captured the key points. So starting with community asset support, well, this is an element of what we do which involves two discrete things. One is the assets that we actually own as a parish council, and we currently have 3, because we have the Home Firth public toilets, which obviously I've already mentioned, and we also have Honley Library, which is in the process of moving across to us, and we have Home Firth Civic Hall. So all those assets have seen changes over the last 12 months. So we've got a new tenant moved in, Monty's Loft, which moved into the unit next to the Home Firth public toilets. That's our first tenant in that part of the building, and it will help make the building more sustainable in the long run in terms of having the income of the tenancy. Then the Honley Library has gone through the asset transfer, which was formally approved by Kurt Leeds on the 16th of February this year. So that's very new, but I know that's been several years worth of work, both by the council, but predominantly by the Friends of Honley Library, who've done a great job, and I'd like to extend my thanks to their hard work on that. And obviously the hard work now begins in terms of the library moving over to the Parish Council in terms of responsibility. And finally, Home Firth Civic Hall. Obviously, we supported that during COVID, and we've given them grants to support their ongoing refurbishment projects, one of which is due to start very shortly. And that's sort of one element of the community asset support, so the things we actually own. And the other element is the wider community assets, which we all value across the valley. And during this year, we've awarded £24,000 worth of grants to a whole range of local community assets run by different groups, organisations, clubs, etc., but all offering public benefit to our community. These have included Home Firth Bowling Club, which has put in new toilets, work at Upperthonga Brockholes Village Halls, projects improving open spaces through River Home Connections, at Homebridge Cricket Club, Wooldale Community Association, and Hetworth Band Room. So there's a whole range of different organisations, and that's not necessarily a complete list, but it's a number of different ones we've been able to support. And it's often by providing a little bit of grant funding that can be then added to other funds that they're able to raise. And we're conscious in this COVID year that a lot of the normal fundraising activities that those assets would be able to undertake themselves haven't been open to them. So it's been important that we've recognised that we still have a role in terms of supporting those assets. And then the other thing that's changed in the community assets field, if you like, is we've introduced expressions of interest process. And the intention behind that was to understand better what demands and needs were in our community for supporting these community assets, which we all value. And rather than just waiting for grant applications to come in and then perhaps find we don't have enough money to cover the needs, or it's difficult to compare different applications, we thought it would be a good approach to ask people, well, how do you think you're likely to need support going forward? And then we were able to consider that when we were budget setting, so that next year we've been able to set a budget which reflects the level of need that we feel is there and the level of need that we feel we are able to support. So some of the people who came with expressions of interest, we've then encouraged to put in the funding application, and some of them will do so in this coming year. But others we've said, well, actually, that's not really something we can support you with, and we've, where possible, signposted them to other sources of funding. So that's the world of community assets. Then we've got service provision, which is another key committee, has a range of responsibilities, some of which are shown in the pictures pictures above or below, depending where your screen is in the room. And one of the key things we have made a commitment to, and I know quite a few councillors are very keen to see how we can support more engagement with young people, but also boosting youth provision so that we genuinely deliver for all the community. And one of the grants that's recently been given is to support a youth worker. And in conjunction with that, obviously there's giving people things to do and supporting people, and there's also making people feel safe. So a recent grant that was given by Service Provision was supporting CCTV in Honley. We've adopted another red phone box very recently in Towngate, Home Firth, and that adds to the 5 we already have. The 5 we already have are all operated as reading libraries at the moment and sort of looked after by a local guardian, just a volunteer in the community. And I think the plan with the Towngate one is to make it available to our community, our Climate Emergency Committee, to see what information that they can make use of it. But obviously prior to doing that, it needs to be freshened up and shelving put in, etc. Then a large part of the role of the Parish Council, in a sense, is looking after the assets that we've had, many of which we've had for a long period of time, and that includes obviously all the benches across the valley, the bus shelters, war memorials, etc., and making sure they're kept in good order. And our maintenance contractor does a great job for us on that. And alongside that, we also again provide a key element so that there's connectivity between the villages. We support Christmas trees across the valley, both in terms of grants to Home Firth and Honley, but also a lot of the villages across the valley. And we've increased the number of dog waste bag dispensers, because I know it's a source of much frustration by people that people don't always pick up their waste. So if they have the opportunity to pick up dog waste bags, then we're keen to support putting in dispensers where they're useful. Now, thirdly, the Climate Emergency Committee is a new committee for this year, and it built on the fact that the Parish Council announced a climate emergency back in, well, nearly 2 years ago now, and from that developed a climate emergency action plan. And this was the first year of the full committee, and I think what's interesting about this committee is it's a mixture of councillors who are the ones who have the voting powers for decisions, but it also has members of the public who have become members of the committee. They're not able to vote on spending decisions, but they can share their expertise and experience. And I think that's worked really well. And to facilitate that, we recruited a climate emergency coordinator in August. And her role was Michelle Brown. She facilitates the delivery of projects. And sort of since her appointment, a number of projects have got underway, as I say, involving members of the committee who are both councillors and members of the public. And one of the most visible ones so far is the drinking water dispenser that's been installed on the Home Firth public toilets. This is a picture of that for anyone who hasn't had a chance to see it in situ. And I'm pleased to say I've seen plenty of folk using it as they're going past. And obviously in the long run, we hope it will be very well used during the summer and as festivals and events start up again once we're sort of through this COVID period. Then we've got through having a climate emergency coordinator, a lot of it is about trying to spread the message and try and facilitate activity across the valley. So there's a dedicated website and Facebook site, and networks are developed across the valley with live streaming events held quarterly. And that's something that Michelle oversees. And some of the projects that are currently underway include a repair cafe, land mapping, so we understand the carbon impact of different types of land use, energy audits of our assets so that we can work out how to support them to become more energy efficient, and new bike racks across the valley to help people choose more sustainable means of travel. And another sort of key theme to the Climate Emergency Committee is the spirit of partnership. And we've formally established a partnership with Home Valley Climate Action, which is a separate organisation, and that's really to allow us to increase our influence and impact, because ultimately addressing the climate emergency isn't something the Parish Council can do on its own. And by partnering with Home Valley Climate Action, that also allows us to access more funding opportunities. So on to how we pay for it all. Finance and management, they obviously play a key role in making sure that we're being careful with our taxpayers' money. And there's a couple of key things that that they do every year. They do budget planning based on each committee's recommendations, and they challenge and test what the committees have said that they wish to do and what funding they require. They've also reviewed the grant process to make sure it's a clearer process, both for applicants and for those of us considering the applications. And we've moved towards a twice yearly consideration of grants, which makes it easier for different grant applications to be compared with each other, and then the funds to be spread as equitably as possible. And in that, we've made a sort of commitment to community events and projects, which we've had over several years, but we've recognised that actually as our community emerges out of COVID and more opportunities arise for people to get together again, we've increased our small grants budget from the Finance and Management Committee to £20,000 next year from a previous £10,000. So we'll have to see how the take up is on that. And we've also, through the Finance and Management Committee, been able to assess what reserves we have and how that balances with the budget needs that we want. And through prudent use of those reserves, we've spent less this year than we had anticipated as a result of COVID restrictions. Then we've been able to meet the challenge of supporting the community needs. So like the things we mentioned with community assets, without having to raise the precept. So now on to planning. Well, the committee has reviewed approximately 300 planning applications in the Valley, both ones for Kirklees area and Peak District National Park. And we've done that through hearing representations from neighbours or interested parties in those applications, and also reviewing all the paperwork ourselves and using our local knowledge and experience to give our views, which then go to the decision makers at Kirklees and Peak District National Park. And as it says on the bottom of that slide, we've also reviewed better ways of working with those planning teams so that we understand what they're looking for and we understand what they're looking for, and we can work better together, which I think helps and avoids sort of misunderstandings along the planning process. And the big element, which is sort of alongside this regular reviewing of all applications across the Valley, is the neighbourhood development plan process, which has obviously been going on for several years now. But I'm pleased to say that following the final consultations by Kirklees and the Peak District, which happened at the beginning of this year, it's currently being reviewed by the independent planning examiner. And we're in the process of getting questions and clarifications back from them. Once they've been addressed and we've made any modifications required, then the neighbourhood plan will be coming to local residents to decide if they wish to adopt it in a referendum. And that's the opportunity for the really local elements that relate to the Home Valley itself, rather than wider Kirklees, to have an impact on planning decisions in our area. So penultimate committee is publications and communications. And really the whole role of publications and communications is to raise awareness of what we do. And so we've looked at our website, Facebook, and looked at how we can improve the notice boards, both outside the Civic Hall and on other buildings like the public toilets, for example. And we've developed some signage for our contractor, who goes around doing strimming around the benches, cleaning the pressure washing the bus shelters, etc., and making sure that people are aware that that work is being done as part of the Parish Council, because it's important that there's visibility of what the Parish Council is here for, so that people know what our responsibilities are and who they should address questions to. Then we've also sought to recognise some of our assets. So we've got commemorative plaques for our 3 key assets. Obviously, some of them are yet to go up, partly because of COVID, and partly, obviously, we had to wait for Honley Library to be, well, we have to wait for it formally to get the keys before we can put the plaque up. And given there haven't been many events that we've been able to support through this period because of COVID restrictions, we've sort of thought about how we can support people in the future. And one of the small initiatives that we've done is purchase some high visibility vests, which then community groups can come to the council and borrow at no charge to use for local events, which just makes it easier for organisers, because they know where to get them from. And we've in common with that, we've had to think about how we can facilitate easier public access for our meetings, and recently purchased some IT equipment to allow remote attendance, so that members of the public, whereas historically and really until this year they always had to come and attend in person, maybe just to ask a question and be there for a couple of minutes, we want to make it possible for them to attend remotely and us to be able to hear what they've got to say from inside the council chamber when we in due course return to face-to-face meetings. So the final committee that we have is the staffing committee, and obviously the staff team are the backbone really of the parish council. They're the ones who help turn the decisions into reality, and I'd extend a big thanks to them, as obviously Liz Bennett, Rich McGill and Michelle Brown, and they've all worked incredibly hard in pretty trying circumstances in terms of it being, you know, remote working and having to get up to speed with all the technology. And I'd also like to thank the councillors as well for adjusting to working online, because it's not necessarily the easiest of things. And one thing that has been really useful, I think, is there've been a lot of training opportunities made available by national bodies and Yorkshire sort of local government organisations, which has allowed many councillors and the clerk team to improve their skills and knowledge, which I think is always a good thing, to be honest. And that's also informed refreshing lots of our policies and bringing them up to date. And that was part of this time sort of last year. We were coming out of the kind of governance review that had taken place the previous year and looking at how we could make all our systems sort of absolutely up to date and robust. And one of the recommendations of that was a new financial system called Realtas, which was introduced this year, and that should improve our record keeping and governance. So looking ahead now to sort of how we're moving forward, one of the things that I'm keen to encourage is to sort of, obviously we can reflect on what we've done, and it's been a very different year, but I think it's useful to have reflected on how much we have achieved as a council. But our priority really is we're all about delivering for our local community. And when I looked across all the different committees and thought about all the activities we did, there are some sort of unifying themes that connect all of our activities really. There's a purpose behind all of them. And really it's about delivering for our community, delivering for our economy and delivering for our environment. And full council recently adopted 5 strategic priorities, which are there to help coordinate and clarify what we do so that we can communicate better to our residents and ourselves really, between all the different committees. For example, that we've got 5 key things that we're trying to do in all the different elements of our work. And these are obviously on the slide. It's value community assets and services, it's building community resilience, supporting the local economy, championing local democracy, and improving our environment. And everything we do effectively fits within that framework. And conscious that we've also got the the Climate Emergency Action Plan and the Neighbourhood Development Plan as 2 kind of public documents that give us a whole load of actions that we're seeking to achieve. Those are all things that require us working with other people, not just working on our own, but it also needs us to all work together and all work on delivering these things going forward. So just to summarise at the end, so effectively we raise money from local people so we can spend it on local priorities. That's why the parish council is here. That's why I think it's very important that we have a parish council, and it's a great opportunity for our area to really have a say on things that affect us. But we can't do this alone. You know, the parish council can't just plough its own farrow and do its own thing. It needs to work with other people, work with our community, and work with wider partners to make sure we can deliver for everyone in the Home Valley. So just to bring it to conclusion, I'd just like to say thank you very much to all my fellow councillors and to the clerk team. And I've been very honoured and privileged to act as chair for this year. And that sort of brings my presentation to a close, just to say thank you to everybody for listening. Okay, thank you for those claps. Thank you, much appreciated. Okay, we will now move on. I'm conscious there's questions. There's a question item at the end, so we'll just go through the next items on the agenda. And my intention was that presentation could be a link to it could be provided with the minutes of this meeting. So if people wanted to review it later, then they could do. And obviously members of the public could do likewise. So moving on to item 4, which is the Parish Council accounts. Obviously, we're not quite at the end of the financial year. We've got a few, well, just over a week to go. But the submitted accounts are up to the end of February. Obviously, we've had a few meetings subsequently that have made decisions which are yet to be sort of accounted for, if you like. So what we've got here is 4 different documents, which are all to, can I just check this? Are these all to note, or are these to formally approve? Liz, are you able to advise on that?
That's a no, Rachel.
Okay, so that's fine. I was just checking. Okay, so can we note the budget for 2020 to 21 to date, please? Everyone note that? Everyone got their hands up? Yeah, okay, thank you. Can we note the detailed income and expenditure by budget heading, which is document D? Okay, thank you. And can we note the cash and investment reconciliation, which is document E? Everyone happy with that? Okay, thank you very much. And then can we note the earmarked reserves, which is document F? Okay, seeing hands up. Super. Okay, thank you very much. That's effectively the end of the formal items before the final one, which is public question time. Obviously, as we haven't got any members of the public with us, unless any have joined while I was doing the presentation, but councillors, clearly as members of the public, are very welcome to ask questions of each other or any other issues that they wish to raise. Councillor Davies, and then Councillor Curry.
Okay. Not a question, just really just some comments, and really the comment, what I want to say is very much a great thank you, a big thank you to yourself, Councillor Hogley, for fantastic job as chair of the council. It's been a really difficult time for everyone, and it's no mean feat to help steer us through that, and certainly yourself in partnership with us and with our officers have done a fantastic job. And thanks very much for the presentation. I think that's going to be of huge value in helping us to explain to the citizens of Home Valley what we do as a council and what we're aiming to do. And certainly I would hope that's something that we continue to do going forward in annual meetings. But thanks very much, Rachel. Done an absolutely brilliant job. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Davies. Much appreciated. Thank you. Councillor Carey, I think you had your hand up next.
Yeah, Paul beat me to it. I was going to ask for a vote of thanks for you, Rachel, for the work that you did. I noticed you did get a round of Zoom applause after your presentation, but you've been a really strong chair. Sometimes that's not made easier by some of our councillors at times, and it has been difficult with the situation, as Paul's already explained, but just wanted to echo that and say a massive thank you to you for all the effort that you've put in. And for, you've actually reorganised your own personal life to give more time to the parish, which is admirable. And I think, the amount of time that you invest in it shows.
Thank you. Okay, does anyone else have any questions or comments or things they just want to raise? Councillor Colling?
I'd like to thank Liz and Rich, and as a new chair of a committee, I just couldn't have done it without them. They've explained things to me and made it possible and provided the paperwork and done the homework, and I think they're both really very, very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd certainly echo that. I think that we're very fortunate, so let's give them a round of applause as well.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else got anything they want to mention or raise? Okay, otherwise, I think we have to bring this meeting to a close because we can't start the full council one formally till 8 o'clock. So that gives everyone a wonderful opportunity to have a cup of tea. But Councillor Carey, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I can't find the papers anywhere. The agenda that was sent out only is an agenda. It's not all the all-in-one item. So unless I'm missing an email, I don't seem to have sight of, and they're not on the website either. When I looked on the website full meetings, I can only see the agenda on there. So that would give me 25 minutes to read the papers.
I believe it's on there now. I went a little bit earlier. I certainly got it from the website, Councillor Carey's, but it may have been only recent because I had picked it up a little bit earlier.
It was there this morning.
Definitely.
This morning it was certainly there.
Yep, sorry.
I was going to say, they're definitely where on the meetings part, the main meetings part, the whole document is there. I believe Rich spent an hour putting all the documents on the forthcoming meetings site. Is that right, Rich? Yeah.
It says content coming soon on the website.
The link is on the chat. I just sent a link on the chat, Doug. So
all right, cheers.
Councillor Pogson? Okay.
I've got.
Can we unmute Councillor Pogson, please?
Rich, you do it. You do it.
Doug, so I've just opened the website, by the way, and they're on there at the minute.
I believe where there might be some confusion is they're just down as agenda, but actually you click on that and it's the full merged document pack is there. I think it might be sometimes there's like agenda and then there's the document pack. So I think if the clerks can ensure that it actually says exactly what it is in future, then people will know that the full lot's there, not just the agenda. I think that's why there might be some confusion.
Okay, well, luckily enough, everyone's got 20 minutes to, if necessary, go onto the website, look at the supporting documents, and then there is one for, I don't think it's called Full Council, but Meeting of Home Valley Parish Council, 8 PM, and the all-in-one pack's on there as well. So I'll bring this meeting to a close and see you all again in 20 minutes. You can stay on if you wish, or you can ring off and then reconnect.